Hello everyone and welcome to week 5 and the module 3 discussion for IS 688 on web mining. As with every week, let's start with some logistics and announcements. Regarding your assignment 1, I'm working on grading the stories that have been posted so far. There are 13 of them. I encourage you to go check out what your fellow students have been writing. Last week I showed you some statistics on the articles that have been posted. Here's some updated statistics. You see that the most popular article has remained in the top place and has gotten more views, but there's some churn in what other articles are popular. So there's always opportunity for you to get some exposure. You should think about this as I mentioned before, portfolio building exercise, as the general public gets to see the work that you're doing. Module 2, the Module 2 assignment is also due this week. So if you haven't gotten that in, you'll be working on that. Remember, you don't want to wait until the last or the end of the semester to try and get all of your assignments in simultaneously. That won't be good for either one of us. Remember that there are resources available for this on GitHub for examples about pulling data from social media sources for building graphs, or pulling data from articles and web pages for pulling graphs, and doing some analysis there. So I encourage you to check that out if you haven't. The assignment 3 is now available. This primarily focuses on finding similar content in web data. And the main goal here is to get you to use the tools that you learn from modules 3 and 4 around distance metrics and potentially dimensionality reduction to find some interesting insights or extract some interesting insights from a data set of your own choice. So this is a little bit different than the prior 2 assignments where I asked you to create your own data set. Here you're welcome to create your own or use some pre-existing data set. The main idea is for you to identify a few entities in your data set that are interesting and then develop some kind of ranking based on the data or features that are available in that data. And for each one of those entities that you've identified, show the top 10 most similar entities in the data set. You can think about this as a search engine for this particular data set. So if you're looking at web pages, finding a query or a particular web page and looking for other pages that are most similar, or images, finding most similar images, these kinds of things. As before, you need to, since you're writing for Medium, have some interesting question associated with this. Why are these queries, or why is this data set and rankings or recommendations particularly interesting here or useful? You need to discuss where your data comes from, the features you're using, and what you're defining as the meaning of similarity in your data, and list what your queries are and the similar items. And then the standard, what software did you use, what bugs did you encounter, what was and what were the main takeaways from your work. This may feel like a slightly more esoteric or very narrow kind of assignment compared to the first 2. So I've included in the assignment brief a couple of examples that might be informative or give you some insight into the kinds of things that you could do. So you could use IMDb to rank movies by similarity based on actors, what movies have or share a common actor set, or share common dialogue or common color palettes. I know Reddit's Data is Beautiful subreddit has had a number of these color palette kinds of questions that have generally ended up with interesting or at least attractive visualizations. Do similar things for ranking users in Twitter by similarity based on their followers or the hashtags they use, or ranking subreddits in Reddit by similarity in the domains or the users who have posted in them, or words in the submission titles, web pages based on overlap or similar text or similar links. You could use SimRank from last time. So there are a lot of ways where you can explore interesting questions using the distance metrics that we will discuss in the Module 3 lecture. And note, if you're using Python, sklearn has a lot of distance metrics that are already pre-implemented or developed for you, so it should be relatively straightforward to apply these. You have a lot of options in the particular distance metric that you want to use or that you can use, from Euclidean distance to the cosine similarity to Jacquard or Hamming distance. All of these are options that are implemented here. Though it's important to remember, or at least differentiate, are you looking at similarity or distance? Uh, the distance metric that's provided by sklearn, they are distance metrics. The larger values mean that they're further away. The similarity metrics that we talked about, so like cosine similarity or Jacquard similarity, are inverted. The larger the value, the more similar they are. So you need to keep that in mind when you're doing your rankings. All right, next is the semester project. So all project proposal feedbacks have been returned. I sent a announcement about that at the beginning of the week. The single most common issue identified in your proposals was really ambiguity or lack of refinement in what problem you are solving, which sort of had a cascading effect on the rest of the proposal. So remember, in this class, since it's really about a data mining class, we want to be able to extract insights that are valid, particularly ones that are useful or actionable in some way. So somebody needs to take what you have provided in your project and be able to use it. It should solve some need. They should be insights that are not obvious, so they can't be just pulled out from counts in the system or counts in the data set. You shouldn't, if your problem is easily solved by an Excel spreadsheet, this is generally not enough, and then they should be understandable, so valuable as well. So I'm harping on this because you need to be thinking about, for the particular work that you propose, are you solving some user's problem or addressing some need? Will a user or an individual be able to take what you provide and then do something with that that makes their life easier or improves a workflow or gets them information more quickly or better information? So is it some ranking question where you're going to recommend more useful content so they don't have to go find it? Or are you getting personalization, or are you doing something along those lines where you think about the particular problem that's being solved rather than just saying, I'm going to extract insights about a particular data set? Now, this is core and crucial because finding insights doesn't necessarily mean you're solving some problem. And for any data set, the number of insights is essentially, or that what one could find, is essentially unbounded. So you need to be thinking about this in terms of problems, because that'll help you scope when have you found all the insights that you need, or at least all the insights that are sufficient for solving your problem. So for example, say you are looking at a search engine or data that's produced by Amazon or like Twitter's friend recommendation system or something. There are many possible insights about how does that recommendation system work, or how does this ranking system work, or what goes into the ratings that are included in this data, or something along those lines. And trying to identify all of those insights is very hard. But if you narrow or refine your problem, you add on this additional detail of, well, we're looking for insights about this search engine that helps somebody do search engine optimization, place their website higher up in some ranking, or place their business higher up in some recommendation on businesses. Well, that helps you understand what insights are important here. And I can throw away or disregard all kinds of insights that are not useful for that particular task. So this is about helping, like by identifying this problem, it helps you scope down what you're doing in a way that makes it easier for you, hopefully, and hopefully makes it easier for me in terms of assessment, because then I can say, well, this insight addresses this particular concern, or you have enough insight to answer the problem that you propose. And then once you've done that, every step along the way, in terms of the data you collect or the insights that you propose to extract, should be things that are specific to solving your problem. So every insight that you mention, does that insight give you some evidence or support to solve the user's problem that you've identified? If not, that insight's not important for your particular task. It could be important in a broad scheme of things, sure, but it's not important for your particular project. So you should think about this, take the opportunity to review the notes that I've given you about your proposal and address them and refine what your project proposal is about. And you're welcome to submit an updated proposal that addresses these issues and not replace your grade with a regraded version of this proposal revision set. And now throughout all of this, nobody's proposal was so off target that they needed to start from scratch. So you should be now working on your data collection report because it's due next week. As with all of the project deadlines, these are hard deadlines. Whereas the module assignments are soft, you can turn them in at any time. Your project deadlines are hard deadlines. Based on the feedback I've given you, you're probably in this in this less interesting or less happy stage of the lifetime of your project. That maybe this is going to be harder than you thought. That the refinements I've asked you for maybe make your problem or your project less interesting, or shows that there's more work here than you expected. That's to be expected. So remember, the data collection report is due next week, regardless of any sort of revisions that I have provided. And really, you can take what you've learned about the data collection that you've done up till now and use that to potentially inform your revisions to your proposal. Because maybe you've identified some particular kinds of data were harder to get or easier to get than you expected. All right, so that covers the logistics for the course. For this week, the main learning objectives are fourfold that cover Module 3. The first one is to be able to give examples of at least 3 distance metrics, so this will be useful for your Module 3 or Assignment 3. Define shingling and its utility in evaluating similarities. This is a question about how you vectorize text into instances that you can very easily evaluate distance within or similarity within. Describe the relationship between Jacquard similarity and min hashes. So why does the min hash algorithm that we talk about give us an estimate for Jacquard similarity? And then explain the intuition behind locality sensitive hashing. So LSH is an important topic in the field of data mining, especially when you have lots of data and complex data, as most data is on the web. And this will set up the lecture for next week when we talk more about locality sensitive hashing and dimensionality reduction. There are discussion boards for this, for the module. If you have any questions, feel free to post it there about Assignment 3 or anything that we talk about in lecture. And then setting us up for next week is Chapter 11, Sections 11.3 and 11.4, about dimensionality reduction, specifically using SVD, singular value decomposition, and a improvement on that. And then Assignment 2, Module 2, that needs to be turned in soon. The data collection report, as I said, is due next week, and Assignment 3 is going to be due in a couple of weeks from now. I think there are a lot of options to do interesting and fun things here for this assignment. So be thinking about that, because you'll have to spend some time thinking about how you want to approach this problem. If you have any questions, as I mentioned, feel free to post to the Module 3 discussion forum. If you have questions about your project, there's the project discussion forum as well. Now we'll move on to the lecture for Module 3.